now. Hey, TR, how are you?
Hi, Terry. How are you?
Good. So I get more and more excited every week as we do this, just because of the feedback and things like that I'm getting from everyone. But hey, you
Sure.
guys, GR Myers and I are on because we just are going to go live for 30 minutes every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern to just talk about business, real estate investing, financial stuff, right?
Topics.
Yes, and we always want to start because we always want to encourage people to live in the spirit of thankfulness. Are you ready now that the third time we're on? Are you ready for what you're going to share to be thankful for?
Sure. So I am thankful that we live in a society where we can help others, because I think that one of the best ways to be happy in this life is to serve other people and to help.
Yeah.
And we literally live in a country where it's easy to do. It's easy to help other people. There's opportunities all over the place. I tell my kids all the time, just make the world a better place. And here in the United States, it's easy to do that. You can make the world a better place in whatever way you're comfortable and talented, and you can do that. You know what I mean? Make the world a better place, and make it better for all of us.
I'm going to share something based off of what you said there. I remember, you go through these seasons, and I think it's good. It's not good when you're going through a down season financially, but you go through these seasons financially, up and down. Like you always say, you started behind the 8 ball, right? But I remember, like Steve and I don't know if this was the first or the second time, because we've been wiped out financially a couple times. But we were like wiped out financially. And I just remember having a pity party, like, Lord, I feel like I have nothing to give. And when you're in that like overflow where you're able to like bless people and give, you walk, all you have to do is walk out your front door and you see a need, but when you're able to do that and then all of a sudden you're wiped out financially and you're not, it can kind of, be a downer. But I felt like the Lord say to me, you can still give words of encouragement. And I remember I started giving words of encouragement, and it was a time where people really, really needed it. So we can give. Most people won't even give a smile or a word of encouragement now, but that's free, right? Yeah. That's free. So the thing I'm thankful for is I'm actually thankful for a closing that I had take place this week, which we're going to talk about tonight at the in-person real estate investment workshop we're doing, right? Because it's a great story of a couple who had their house for 5 years and then walked away with $107,000, and they're under 30.
Right.
Whoop, whoop. So anyway, I'm just thankful for transactions like that, because it gives evidence that the things that we're sharing work, right? And so people need to see that in the lives of those around them so that they know it can work for them. Right. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So GR, we were going to talk about a couple of things today, but one I thought would be good is it's funny because I'm a realtor. I don't know if you get this, but because I'm a realtor, when somebody gets on the phone with me and they're like, hey, how you doing? First thing they're always asking me is something about the housing market. So they're always saying, are prices of homes going down? So they're not asking what's happening in the market now. Their question to me is, are prices of homes going down? Right. I don't know what your answer is to that, but my answer is no. What's your answer to that?
Well, in the words of, I'm trying to think who it was. I want to say John Maxwell, but I'm not sure if it was him or not, to be honest with you, now that I'm thinking about it. But I heard a gentleman at a seminar say one time, if you want better answers, ask better questions. So if you ask me, do I think home prices are going down? I have to ask you a question. Right. In what time frame are you referring to? Are you talking about tomorrow? Are you talking about next month? Are you talking about next year? Or are you talking about in 10 years from now? So I need a time frame before I can even answer the question.
Right. And yeah, that's great. And also, you always want to know, really when they're asking me, I think they're just asking me because they know I'm a realtor. But I do know we're asking that question because people, and they're just making small talk, right?
Right.
But I think that people, the ones who are going to be watching this live with us, actually really want to know the answer.
So I think, Perry, that most people, when they ask the question, are asking in the short term.
Yes.
And the problem with that is that's where most people's thinking is. And that's why most people are broke, because all they think about is the short term. Right. They never really look at the long term. I'll be honest with you. I don't know, because I can't predict the future. We can look at historically what has happened over time and make a prediction, but nobody really knows. But I hope the home prices do go down, because that's a buying opportunity for investors, right? So I bought a bunch of my real estate between 2009 and 2013 when the market had crashed in 2008.
So, do you know why I say no to that answer? And here's I think the danger, because I'm a realtor to investors like you too. I think I just claim it and I say it more vocally, right? But you're a realtor to investors. The reason I say no, and the reason it's dangerous to keep waiting for home prices to go down is, so like my client who closed 4 houses in December 2022, in case this is on YouTube later on, 10 years from now, and somebody's watching it. December 2022, he closed on 4 houses and paid cash, right? But I can remember the conversation we had 2 years prior to that. And we were looking at prices of homes, and he was thinking about the first home he bought, which I think was at like 140,000. And I really like to get in the mind of my investors, because unless I ask you questions and know where you are, I don't know how to get you to the next level, right? So I have to know where you are. And so one of the things I share with my investors who have been investing longer and not such a newer one, right, is this. I say a lot of investors buy a house for like 140, like what you did, and they stay stuck on that price. So when home values increase, you're waiting for the value to go down. You're waiting for the interest rate to go down. You're waiting. Next thing you know, you've waited a year, and you could have already had 1 or 2 properties that you could already have been building wealth with, And so he took that. I saw how he struggled because he was older, right? So when I say older, I mean over 55. So he struggled because he remembers what he paid for homes. Sure. But he began to expand his mind, and that's why he was able to close on those 4 really great deals in December, which other people would have thought was priced too high. But now his net worth is like 2.2 million. And 10 years from now, his net worth is going to be over 3.3 million, because that's just the way that's going to go. So that's why it's dangerous when people are waiting for prices to go down.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what you're saying. And when most people ask me, I usually say, look, the market's going to fluctuate a couple percent in either direction at any point. I don't know. But I tend to agree with you, especially in Delaware, right? This is where we're most familiar, that because there's so much demand for housing in this area, especially with people moving here from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and other states, the cost of living is lower, the taxes are lower, there's less congestion, we're close to the beaches. Like, there's just a lot of reasons why people move here. I don't think home prices are going to go down very much. Certainly not like they did in 2008, 2009. I mean, that was an extreme situation. I don't foresee that. Could they go down 3%? Sure. I mean, anything in the economy could go up or down a couple percent, but that's just my opinion. And I don't know the future. So I don't know. We could wake up tomorrow and find out the housing market's down 10%. I don't know. It's
so I'm a little bit more firm in my answers. I love how we're different in that. I just love that part. And I think this is a good time to actually say, since you pointed out that we're in Dover, Delaware, and I always tell people you don't have to live in Dover, Delaware to own property here. You just have to know a really good property manager. And you have to have a really good team. That property manager knows attorneys, insurance agents, contractors, right? So, however, if you live in Dover, Delaware, you should come out tonight, because we're offering 12 free sessions. And that's tonight. Tonight's the night. Whoop, whoop, right? I'm so excited about that, especially since I've been getting text messages saying, are we still on for tonight? Which means that the feedback that we got, where people were like, this is definitely something I would come back to and invite people to, Right. So now it's free. People should take advantage of that. But that's at Myers Realty. But it is good to say that what we share is general information, and people really, when they're listening to talks like this or podcasts or anyone, you should take that information and see how it applies to you specifically, to your area, right? Ask the experts in your area. We are in Dover, Delaware. However, general is a good foundation to start, I think, right? Yeah. And so let me share the closing that I just did. The reason I say no, okay, because I just listed a house for $250 that this young couple purchased 5 years ago for $125. And so we just closed on it for $250,000, which means in 5 years it doubled. Now you say that's not normal, right? That's not,
That is what I say. I don't think that that's necessarily normal unless you did an extreme amount of improvements to the house.
but it's doable.
Doable.
And I am going to share this. So I am going to share this. One of the things that when we were talking with the appraiser, that the appraiser said was, I said, this young couple bought it a week before they got married, you know, and we walked them through, they had brand new carpet, the kitchen's updated, right? And he said, you know, it's rare to find a young couple take care of a property like this.
Right.
So they didn't tear it up. They did take care of it. They didn't put an extreme amount into it. I probably should get the numbers so I could share that tonight.
Yeah.
You know, but when we listed that house, and we were originally going to list it for 220, and then the conversation I had with them was, if you want to be a stronger buyer, so here's a little nugget here's an extra nugget. If you want to be a stronger buyer, because they're going to look for a home, you can't have a must sell. So I said, you could move in with a parent. And to tell you the truth, I didn't think that they would do that. I said, you could move in with a parent so that when you put an offer in on a house that you want, you don't have a must sell, you become a stronger buyer. But now your home is empty and it will sell faster. In 2 days, it got a contract. Then people were like, it's no way that's appraising for 250. It did appraise for 250. The closing was smooth. You know, and when we listed at GR, so then we were going to list it for 220, then 235, because they were like, let's give us a couple weeks to get everything out. And and here's a nugget for realtors too. One of the things I did was I looked to see what was pending, and there were like properties and that weren't even as good that was pending for that amount, so that were going to close before we closed. So I knew that we would be able to appraise for that, right? Because a home 3 weeks before we were going to close was going to close. So we had evidence that it was valued at that. Right. So for any new realtors, there's a little nugget for you, right? You have to go based on what closed, but you can also peek at just went under contract. Yep. What's closing, you know, you can call the realtors. They'll have a little bit of a conversation with you. And so that was, but that's an example. I just don't feel like people should wait for home prices to go down, because the same thing with rents, right? When I rent a property, it rents in less than a week. Yeah. And the people who rent it are the ones who've been looking for 3 months and they keep losing properties. And then the ones who are just starting, who are going, I can't believe rent is this what it is, they lose out on it. Yeah. You know, it's important, I think, for people to know what's going on in the market so that they can make informed decisions on what's happening, and not just what everybody's just saying, right? But okay. So then the other thing we were going to talk about, and you guys, you can drop questions in the comments if you want, but if you do, you have to actually go. We're streaming in a couple different places, so we're on StreamYard, and I like making money off of affiliate links, so I'm always going to share my affiliate links in the comments if you guys are interested in StreamYard, because people are always like, hey, the video is good. But what was I saying? I forgot what I was going to say. Darn it. Oh, well. But the other thing
we were talking about, if they want to make comments, and we're on a couple different platforms.
Oh, actually need to go on my personal page, because if they comment at a different place that I'm streaming and not the original place that it listed, I don't see it until later. So you always want to go on my personal page, not my business page, but the personal page that says Terry Collins, if you actually want us to see your comments. You know, but then we'll reply later, ask the question at a later time. But you wanted to discuss something today, because you just cash out refi.
Yeah, because it's kind of an exciting day for me. So the first house I ever bought with my wife, we got married. We're a very young couple. We were living with parents, and we found a house. And
how old were you?
I was 26 and my wife was 20.
Okay. Okay.
And it was
good for people to know.
December of 2000. So 22 and a half years ago. Nice. And we found a little house in Dover that we liked, that we thought would be good. And we purchased it. And I've owned it. We lived in it for 5 years. And then we were getting ready to have our third kid. And like I said, it was a little house. So it was about time for us to, you know, find something a little bit bigger. And I said, I don't really want to sell this house. I want to keep it as a rental. I was like, so I figured out how to make that happen. I did actually end up selling a condo that I had bought in my early 20s that was up in Newark, which is about an hour north of here. And I used that money from the sale of that one for a down payment, you know, to purchase our bigger house. And I kept this one as a rental. So I've had a mortgage on it now. I did refinance it a year in because I got like a lower rate. But I've had a mortgage on it for about 21 years. And today at 2:00, I'm going to do a cash out refi on it and walk away with a nice chunk of money that that I can do what I want to do with. Right. So we can
Are
talk
you
about
going to share that amount with us? You don't have
yeah,
to.
sure.
You can
So
share the amount.
early on in my real estate investing career, as I'm trying to build a portfolio, whenever I would do a cash out refi, I would use that money to reinvest in another piece of real estate.
Yes, that's
I'm
good.
actually right. So I've been doing this now, since I was like 24, 25, so over 20 years.
Right.
So I'm at a different point in my career where in about 6 years or so, I want to have real financial freedom, real time freedom, and really be able to just enjoy my family and, not have to work 40, 50 or 60 hours a week. So I am now not as concerned about reinvesting money as I am as I am about eliminating debts, right? So I'm actually going to use the money to pay down some higher interest loans and reduce my monthly expenses. So it really just depends on where you're at. If I was still really trying to build a bigger portfolio, then I would use the money to find another rental and reinvest it. But I'm just at not that point right now. So I'm actually going to use it this time to pay down some debts.
Well, and I always encourage people to use it to have some fun.
For sure.
I mean, even because I'm like, you have to reward yourself, right? You have to. So I shared with this young couple and I said, I know that you guys are real disciplined in your finances, but they have what we call freedom money. But I said, even this for them, I said, take $1,000 each that you can do whatever you want to do with, right? Just do whatever you want to do with it. Because I know in their mind, they're thinking maybe they might want to buy 2 properties with this money that they walked away from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but just take $1,000, do whatever you want to do with. So to them right now, that feels like, right? But what they're going to do is they're going away for their honeymoon. So they're giving themselves $1,000 to do whatever they want on the honeymoon. And then I think they're going to take $500 each to do whatever they want. Like no questions asked. And I know that that's hard for some people when they're so disciplined with their finances, but you should definitely reward yourself. You should reward yourself, build wealth, have fun in life. So yeah, that's cool. Congratulations. That's exciting. Right?
Yeah. So, so it's one of those ones you talk about all the time, how, buy it, pay it down. And then when the time's right, do a cash out refi and,
And yes. And that's the plan that I share to make $100,000 a year passive income, right? To get to a certain point. It's just exciting for me when, and I tell people that's planting a seed. I'm planting a seed in your mind. Some people will want $200,000 a year passive income, but until you get to 25, 30, 50. So I got young couples under 30 right now. They're focusing on getting to $30,000 a year passive income. So we do it in steps.
Right.
And that's why I'm excited that we also have some young couples who come on Tuesdays. I want younger couples to be there. I want younger couples. But can I ask you? We have some time here.
Sure.
Because I know people were wondering about the details, right? So you bought a condo, and then what you chose to do. There's a book. I want to promote a book. I used to give this early on when I was a younger realtor, and I should actually still give this book. But it's a book called The Millionaire Homeowner by David Bach. And I tell everyone, if all you do is read chapter 1 and do what this couple did in chapter 1, anyone can do that. So what you just shared is an example of that. Because what this young couple said they did was, instead of selling their first home, they turned it into a rental. And that's one of the first baby steps I talk to people about is take that first one and let's see what we're going to do with the first one, right? So you bought a condo and then you bought a home for your family. And what you decided to do was sell the condo, put a tenant in the home for your family, and use the money from the condo to put down on the next house that you were going to buy.
Yes. And I lived in that house for 7 years and did the exact same thing. Although actually I did not do the exact same thing because I didn't have to. I didn't have to sell anything. the next time. I lived in the next house for 7 years, told my wife I want to turn this into a rental property instead of selling a piece of real estate to purchase my next house. And now I actually cashed out my IRA, which I know that if there's a financial planner watching this video, he just rolled over and freaked out because I know that most financial advisors would never recommend you cashing out your 401k to invest in real estate. But for me, it made total sense because I'm a real estate guy, right?
And I have a lot of investors who've done that.
Yeah.
So it's good to say, is it specific to you? Yes.
Right. So here's the thing. So here's my money over here in an IRA. I take the money out of the IRA and I put it into my house. It's still my money. It's
still your money.
It's still my money. I didn't lose my IRA. I just put it somewhere else, right? In a different store of value, which historically speaking, you could argue that the real estate's a better investment than the stock market, right? So so for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. So, but I didn't have to sell a piece of real estate. So those two houses that we're talking about, the first two houses that my wife and I lived in, we're in our third house now. We still own them and rent them out to tenants, and they cash flow great mainly because what I paid for them, 15 and 20 years ago, was a fraction of what they're worth today.
Yeah.
And the mortgage payment on them is a fraction of what it would be if somebody was going to buy them today. So consequently, the rents do reflect the current mortgage prices.
Yes.
The rents are slightly higher than what current mortgage prices are because people, when they rent their houses out, got to cover the mortgage, right?
Yes.
So the rents reflect the value of the home, not what I paid for it, and certainly not what the mortgage payment is.
Well, so I want to actually touch on that too, because it's the same thing where people are saying this. I have some younger, when I'm always listening to conversations, and then depending on the age groups, I got some younger couples saying, I'm waiting for the house prices to go down instead of buying, like some of their friends are. But my point to that is, if you buy a house now, either you're going to pay equivalent to rent or you're going to pay less than what you would pay to rent. And if that's the case, because if you can rent, you can own. And if you can buy your first one, you can buy your first investment property. And if you can buy your first investment property, you can buy a second investment property.
Yep.
You're just repeating what you've already learned, right? So really, for young couples who are thinking about buying and they're waiting for prices to go down because who knows who they're listening to, right? They could be like feeding their own automatic savings account, which is the equity in their home, because I like to call that your automatic savings account. And then instead of feeding their landlord's automatic savings account. It's just something for them to think about. Yep.
Absolutely. If you're renting a house, you're somebody else's passive income. Just think about it like that. And the other thing is, a lot of people don't realize the tax break that you get by buying versus renting. When you rent, there's no tax benefit at all. When you buy, 100% of the mortgage interest that you pay is tax deductible. So you do not pay taxes on any money that you have to spend on mortgage interest. That could end up being thousands of dollars a year.
And here's a good point to that, because this couple, they lived in the home. So the $107,000 that they walk away with is tax-free money, because they fall under that $500,000 threshold of two people, right?
Yep.
Or $250,000 threshold of one person,
the
and
rule
that's tax-free money. And you go ahead.
Yep. The rule says you have to live in it 2 of the past 5 years.
Yes.
So you literally could live in it for 2 years, rent it out for 3, sell it, and still owe no capital gains.
Right. Okay. So, but I want to go back to your example, right? You bought your first home, you bought a condo, and then you got married, had 3 kids, but you had your first home, and you bought your second home. I'm sorry. You bought your second home by selling the condo, right? So do you remember the money you put down on the condo?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was fresh out of college. I wasn't making much money. I was an assistant basketball coach at the University of Delaware under Mike Bray, right? Great experience, horrible income. And I told my dad, I said, I'm tired of paying rent. This is a total waste of money. I was like, I'd really like to buy a condo, but I don't have enough money for a down payment, and I need $12,000. And luckily for me, my father was willing to loan me $12,000, not give me 12, but loan me $12,000 off of, interesting, a home equity line of credit that he had.
Yes. And
So,
yes.
yeah. So here's the thing. So you're like, well, my parents don't have a lot of money. Okay. Do they own a house? Okay. Would they be willing to get a home equity line of credit to help you get started as a 20-something-year-old? I mean, I was only 24. I was fresh out of college. I had rented for a year and I was tired of it. And my dad was willing to help me. So he let me borrow off of his equity line $12,000 for the down payment.
Right.
And we had an agreement that I would make a monthly payment to him that would cover the the payment back to the bank on the HELOC. And I paid him every single month. I rented out 2 of the rooms to some buddies. And I was in the process of buying my first place. And I know we said earlier that it's rare that you would buy a house and it would double in 5 years and you could sell it. But this particular condo, due to the time that I bought it and some minor repairs that I did, I sold it for almost 3 times what I paid for it.
See, I don't think, because I'm in the game, people say it's rare, but with my experience, it's just not as rare as what people think it is.
It's not.
I think it's the way that you buy it. And so we only have like 5 minutes left, which is why I think I still want to invite people to come out tonight, right? But the way this couple bought this house that they sold for 5 years later was also significant too, right? But there's so much more detail I can ask you about. So, and I just want to do a plug in there for my financial coaching and to tell people that you can grow your bank account and keep saving money. Focus on saving $200 a month. Try to get that to $500 to $1,000 a month, right? The reason people don't do it is because they don't focus on it, because you get what you focus on. The reason people don't own an investment property is they never focused on it. Here's how I know that. Once I start talking to someone and they start focusing on it, guess what they do? They buy a rental property. They buy a house because they start focusing on it, right? So maybe if you have parents who can help you like that, that's great. But if you don't, it doesn't mean that you can't do it anyway. And what I found is if you set a certain fund aside and you're like, this fund is for me to build wealth, watch how amazingly you can grow that fund because you've designated it and assigned it to something, right? But so with your condo, $12,000 down, and then you bought your first home. Do you remember the amount you put down on that?
Well, on my first home, I'm pretty sure we did an FHA loan, which would have been 3.5% down, and the cost of the home was $80,000. 3.5% on 80 grand was about $3,000. Now, at that time, I had become a school teacher and I had been able to save some money up. So I had the money for that. Of course, I do believe in HELOCs. We talk about it all the time. That condo, I had gone and gotten a HELOC on it. So I had money there on the HELOC as well, available to work with. We bought that house, our first house as a couple. And I kept the condo at the time as a rental property. So, I mean, when my wife and I got married, I didn't have, I'll tell you a quick funny story because we just have a couple minutes. We were literally moving into our house as a newly married couple. And I come in with a stereo with a couple nice speakers and then a couple duffel bags of clothes. And my wife is bringing stuff in and everything. And she's like, so when are you going to bring the rest of your stuff? I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, the rest of your stuff, when are you going to bring the rest of your stuff to the house? I go, this is all I got.
That's funny. Like, that's funny.
I had a couple duffel bags of clothes and a stereo system with some CDs. I mean, that literally, I had that and I had a condo. So that was my asset. Was my condo. I didn't have anything,
I love it. I love it. But let me get to that's a great story. I love that. So when you bought the house, it was about $3,000 down, including closing costs. Did you get seller assistance for the closing costs?
Got seller's assistance for the closing costs.
Okay. So the reason I make that point is because I think people think that you have to have a lot of money to get started. And you don't have to have a lot of money, but you do have to have some money.
Yeah.
And I know people talk about no money down, but I do think that you should have some skin in the game. Because if you don't have skin in the game and some money in the bank, you're going to make some financial disaster choices for yourself. But go ahead.
I know the house that I paid the $80,000 for, I'm refinancing today. It appraised for $215,000.
Right.
It's been 22 years.
Right.
But that goes to show why real estate long term
can
be a really good investment. And I think like cash out refi is like having your cake and eating it too. because
Well, here's the thing too. You're just doing a cash out refi now, but I have some investors who do a cash out refi every 5 years.
sure.
Really. I mean, they do, and you can do a cash out refi to invest in money or to spend money on vacation. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not suggesting that for anyone unless you have at least 10.
Right.
Because I sometimes I share something and people take it and then they go share it with another friend and it's like that's not exactly what I said. So watch the video yourself.
Right.
You have to be wise and set yourself up. You have to start, stabilize, sustain, right? Repeat, start again. You know, so there's a process that you do, but once you find something that works to build wealth, you can keep doing it over and over again. You can teach it to your kids, you can teach it to your grandkids, your friends and family will learn how to do it.
Yeah.
It's exciting, right?
Awesome.
So, okay. I really wanted to just pull more details out from you because I know people want to hear the details, but but that's okay. I think this was a good live,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and a lot of nuggets shared, but congratulations. That's exciting.
Thanks.
You want to say something else?
Now look forward to seeing you tonight. We have a good time. Have some.
Yeah. So tonight, anybody who's in Dover, Delaware, right? Myers Realty, 1056 South State Street.
Yep.
What time do we do that?
We're going to open the doors at 7:30 and start at 7. I'm sorry, open the doors at 7 o'clock and we're starting at 7:30.
And one of the things I'm doing is I'm sharing the details of how this young couple, the details of this house, so they just bought for 125, just sold for 250, walked away, closing table with 107, right? And you only get the recording if you're there in person. But because we want people in the room, right? We want people in the room and we want them having access to the information and seeing that it is something that they can actually really do for themselves, right? So, okay, GR, I'm going to call you later and I'll see you tonight. All right. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Have a great day, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Let's see. All right, you guys, that's great. So we're going to take this video here. We always go live on Facebook Tuesday at 11 a.m. And then once a month, we have the in-person live at Myers Realty. For now, that's free. We're doing 12 sessions for free. And then once a month, I have the monthly Zoom. So you guys want to get on the email, right, to get access to the Zoom link to, you know, get on Zoom, ask questions. I'll share, you know, finances, the business building, real estate, whatever. You guys, if you're starting a business, here's the thing, right? You start, you stabilize, you sustain, you keep repeating in order to grow. A lot of times people are trying to scale their finances and they haven't even stabilized or sustained their business or their rental portfolio. And so I hope that this was a blessing to you guys. We're doing this because we really want people to improve, who are interested in improving their quality of life. And for me, you know what I mean? I focus on helping my clients get to $100,000 a year, passive income, repeat income. It's just very, very exciting. I always want to end. Oh, and these videos will be on YouTube because what happens is when you scroll through Facebook, it starts to get lost in Facebook. And so we are trying to get it on YouTube and to label it so you can watch this again on YouTube. And we try to break down details and we base these conversations on the questions that we get, the conversations we have with people in the community. So yeah, it's exciting, you guys. So let's see. I always want to end every live just reminding you that you're meant to be the one, okay? You can improve your quality of life. You can do the thing that God is placing on your heart and mind to do. If you see that there's a need in the community or your heart is desiring to create something, chances are you're meant to be the one, right? God's placing that on your heart and mind because you're meant to be the one to do it. And so I always like to encourage people also to eat more raw because you need energy to do everything that you want to do, and to grow your bank account because you need to have some skin in the game and you really want to fund the thing that you want to do. And that's how you step into using other people's money, which I was trying to get into this conversation with GR, but we'll probably talk about that a little bit more next Tuesday. But okay, you guys, as always, from my heart to yours, may God bless your efforts to be physically and financially healthy and strong. Love you guys. Mwah.